Hi, welcome to Far From Perfect with Manny Covington. I'm your host, Manny Covington, and I'm far from perfect. Now, this podcast episode today is going to be about procrastination, putting things off, and this topic really fits considering the fact that I put this off by about a week or two, and also the fact that I procrastinated what my next episode was going to be, as I literally didn't think of what I was going to do today until I got out of the car. I was like, you know what, I really need to record this podcast episode, so let me do it on procrastination because I'm pretty familiar with that. And even just graduating college, I definitely procrastinated more than I should have. It was better than I was in high school. In high school it was really bad, but as I got into college, old habits die hard sometimes, and sometimes I did procrastinate, put work off until the very last minute, and then I'd be doing it, and I'd be wondering, why did I wait this long to do it? But I mean, also in life as well, like there's definitely been times where I'm trying to reach out to someone, or I'm going to go text someone, and I put it off even by like a couple minutes. And it's something that really helps me with that is just thinking about like I don't know, I think it's either 30-second, 5 minute, 5 second, any second, any time rule, where I'm just like, if it's not going to take me that long, I might as well do it. Whether that's like, coming up and folding my laundry, getting my clothes out the dryer, so that way I don't fall asleep and then wake up the next morning and like go look in my drawer and be like, I'm out of underwear. Where's all my underwear? And then realizing that the clothes are still in the dryer or the washer. And I'm not going to comment on whether that's happened recently, but I'm just going to say that I have done laundry since then. But seriously, just thinking about procrastination and not putting things off, and how hard that is. Like, I'm sure you can go up to 50 random people on the street, and at least 27 of them, if not more, will have said that they procrastinated at least one time in the last week. And at least 27, maybe more. But it's just something that you think about sometimes, but then also sometimes you consciously don't think about. Like, there's just times where you just put things off, whether you have other stuff to do, and whether that's the result of you putting other things off. And this is myself included. Like I said, I have been a procrastinator to like pretty much my whole life, and it is something that I'm working on. I'm not saying that you have to stay in the space where you just keep procrastinating, you don't try to fix it, but I also can recognize where my weaknesses are and recognize that procrastinating has been one of my weaknesses. And something else I wonder that plays into a part of it, I don't know if anyone listening can relate, is sometimes when you start a lot of different things, like you're always starting like new projects, just having ideas, writing, like just starting stuff in general. Like, I think of myself when I'm writing songs. Like, I have like at least five unfinished songs like right now, because I started off writing the verse, writing the chorus, and I'm like, I'll get to the second verse later, and then process just keeps repeating. So I end up with like a whole bunch of unwritten songs. And I do have finished songs. I will say that I can sit down and finish songs sometimes, but I just have like a lot of like unfinished songs, and I'm just using myself again as an example. But I wonder if that plays a part into procrastination, where it's not even intentional at that point, but it's just like a whole bunch of new ideas just popping into your head, and a whole bunch of stuff popping in your head that you want to do and that are great things to do. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, me getting a new idea for a new song is a bad thing. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that. And I just wonder like how that plays into a part. I mean, I'm sure it does play into a part of procrastination. I mean, I'm no scientist, but I think that if you're like, obviously, if you're starting a lot of stuff and that's taking time away from finishing other things, then that could play a part of it as well. And I think that it can be helpful in the creative process. If you think, you're always coming up with new ideas. I don't know if any of you guys read Patrick Lencioni, Six Types of Working Genius. I actually have the book right here. If you're watching the video, I have the book right here, the Six Types of Working Genius. One of the geniuses is actually Wonder. That's like the first genius in it. That's kind of like the Wonder, like coming up with a whole bunch of new ideas. And if you know yourself, if you know your strengths, if that's one of your strengths, I wonder if procrastination, and while it might not necessarily be like everyone who has that working genius in a sense. I wonder if that's like one of the common things about it, because like if you're always starting new things, if you're always thinking about starting new things, then it can definitely be hard to finish off the other things, whether on a timely manner or, just turning around and getting back to it. And, like I said, like I have like just started up this podcast. I have two YouTube channels. I'm studying for the CPA. I'm like writing songs on my own time. Just a lot of different things. And just thinking about how maybe if I condensed it, if I wasn't doing as much, that maybe I wouldn't procrastinate in some areas of that. But also at the same time, I get joy and fulfillment in all of those things that I do and in starting new projects and being creative in a sense. And I think that obviously it's something that you can obviously like you can work on, and you don't always have to procrastinate. There's definitely more consequences in procrastinating doing schoolwork rather than procrastinating doing like writing songs for your own personal sense, for your own personal enjoyment. But I also think that having that follow through and having that place where you're not procrastinating, where you're actually getting when you're actually getting the things done on a deadline, if there is one, is definitely like very helpful, especially as you go into the workplace. If you decide to go into a workspace that has a lot of hard deadlines and stuff. So I definitely think that it varies, person to person, industry to industry. Like we're all uniquely created. And it's just so interesting though that, like I said, you could talk to a lot of people. Like I could talk to some of my friends. Definitely, my friends are definitely a lot better at it than me. I'm not even going to sit here and lie. But I mean, there are all times I think everyone at one point has procrastinated at some point. And I'm procrastinating taking a sip of this water. So but like I said, I think the more that you work on it, the more you're intentional about it, the better you can be, where you're not stifling that creative wonder side, so to speak, in that genius, but you're also, finishing through getting things done. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not talking to just you, I'm talking to myself as well. I might come back and listen to this when there's times where I'm procrastinating something. Maybe the next time I'm procrastinating recording the next podcast. But it's just so interesting. Like I know in my head, especially, it's so interesting, especially too, thinking about things where you're procrastinating stuff that's not going to take longer than 5 minutes. Like I don't think there's ever been a time that it's taking me more than 5-10 minutes to fold my laundry, unless I'm literally doing my whole closet, which I definitely do not get through my whole closet because I also don't have enough clothes to get through a whole closet. But besides the point of me doing the laundry in my whole closet, which I don't think it would be possible. That's probably the only time where it would take longer than 10 minutes for me to do my laundry. But it's just so interesting, like the things that we put off, the things that we procrastinate on, where it's honestly better if we just get them done right away. And that's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about like the 5-30 second or whatever time rule that is, where if you just sit down and think about it, it's like, wow, this actually isn't going to take me that long. So I might as well just do it now, so it's not something else that I have to do down the line. Because I'm sure we all know, like, those things can pile up. Like, if you keep procrastinating over and over again, there's going to be a time where you can't procrastinate anymore and you have to sit down and do it all then. Now, there are times where, I'm not going to lie, where I can put in the work when there's pressure. I'm like, oh, this paper is due at midnight and it's 10:20 and I haven't started yet. Like, the only thing I've written is my intro. All right, time to crank it out. And there's times where I can do that, but I just think it'd be better in general, if I sit down and if it's like 10:30 on the night before the night that it's due, and like, oh, all I have to do is write the last paragraph and the conclusion. Well, that's going to be easy. So I definitely think that obviously procrastination isn't helpful, but there's also times where I've noticed that putting things off, whether intentionally or unintentionally, can just give like a fresh view. Like I know, like if I'm writing a song and I like step away for the day and then come back the next day, whether it's because, I'm just all tired out and ready to move on to the next thing, or because I just didn't get back to writing the second verse or the second chorus or whatever. And then I come back and kind of looking at it with fresh eyes, with a new lens. There's definitely times where I can look back and see the improvements that I can make. And I just think that that's in general. That doesn't have to be necessarily in form of procrastinating and waiting till the last minute to do something. But there's definitely a benefit in, looking at things from a new lens. But that's a whole different topic. And I just think that, the more that you can work on not procrastinating, the more you can work on being intentional with those breaks, but also being intentional with staying on task, staying on time if you have deadlines for stuff, or even self-imposing deadlines. I know that's something that's helped me. Like, I'm like, all right, if I'm writing a song, I'm like, all right, I literally just have to write this verse and the bridge, and then I literally will be done. So I'm like, all right, at least want to have something down by the end of the day. And that helps as well because, like I said, if you work better under pressure, if you work better when you have that deadline, then putting even a self-imposed deadline, not necessarily a hard deadline, that's like, if you're with a record label and they're like, all right, you have to write this song in 10 seconds, or I don't know. I'm not signed with the record label. I don't know what their time constraints are, but if you even like self-imposed time constraints, I feel can definitely help in making sure you're not procrastinating to a point where it's becoming ineffective and it's becoming just making your life more difficult, because who wants life to be difficult all the time? I mean, there's times where difficult things in life are going to happen where you can grow from it. But if you're self-imposing difficulties in life along with the other difficulties in life that are already going to come with living life, then that just makes life more difficult. And if you're listening, you can comment how many times I said difficult in the past 30 seconds. But just in general, I mean, just being more intentional about myself. Again, I'm talking to myself at this point. Just being more intentional about not procrastinating, because it definitely makes life a lot easier and it definitely can produce better work, especially with those self-imposed deadlines, because then you're kind of working on under pressure in quotes. And while you're not even necessarily procrastinating, while you're being intentional about not procrastinating, just having that deadline just helps. And I think I'm definitely gonna come back to this and be like, all right, Manny, you told yourself that you're gonna stop procrastinating, so be intentional about it and stop procrastinating. So thank you guys for listening. If you want to support this podcast, then there should be a link that says like support this podcast. Share this with your friends. Share this with someone who is always procrastinating, even if it's with yourself. You can send a text message to yourself and say, hey, listen to this whenever you need to stop procrastinating. Thank you guys for listening. This is Far From Perfect with Manny Covington. I'm Manny Covington, and I'm far from perfect.